Welcome to DI Sports. Getting this started. First episode for DI Sports, a little breakout. But I'm here. My name is CT Dice, and with me is Albert.
Yeah. Thanks for having me. Excited to talk about sports. It's been a while, so let's get into it.
Yes, I'm excited. And today, or rather, the way I'm looking at this sports channel, it's going to evolve into different things. But for now, I'm looking to get started with the NBA. One, talking a little bit of soccer. If we don't talk about soccer, which is actually football, like, gosh, Canada is getting to me, guys. It's actually football.
Oh yeah. Oh,
It is actually football, right?
I guess people are
So
getting used to it being called soccer too. So.
yeah, I'm getting used to it, but I gotta remember.
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta remember somebody is pushing me, or rather, somebody is pushing me to something I shouldn't be doing. It's actually football, guys. But yes, we're gonna be talking football. We're gonna be talking the NBA, and for football, I'm gonna be focusing. We're gonna be talking about everything, but I'm gonna focus on the Premier League and fantasy Premier League. If you play that, you know what that is. Also, we're gonna be what is exciting to me is that we're going to get into understanding and getting more information and learning about the next big thing. You heard it here. You all know it is the Saudi Arabian League. So we're going to get into that. I know nothing, not much, but we're going to learn together. Albert, what do you think? Hopefully you're going to be here with me with this whole journey.
Oh yeah.
And it's going to be exciting, guys. It is going to be exciting. At the end of the day, this is where we come and relax and chill and talk about what we all enjoy, which is sports, right? So for today, we're going to begin with the NBA.
Basketball. Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
we're in the
sir.
off season, so everything is a little
The
quiet.
ESPYS was the other day. A few good award acceptance speeches from
They did the whole
LeBron and
the whole LeBron Melo way
like
CP3
I like that, just
honorary stuff.
honoring Melo. It's kind of cool.
The last time they did that, did they honor them or three or four of them just came on?
That was, I think they had to do it with like like all the police brutality
Where
stuff that
four
was
of them
going
came
on.
on in
Yeah, they're just trying to
2016.
just trying to use their voice, kind of like push that message across. So
Oh,
that was mostly what
I
that
saw
was.
I saw a side by side photo, so it was kind of interesting.
Yeah, the banana boat crew, all four horsemen.
I know,
That's
right?
them. Right?
Yes, it's gonna be interesting. The season is gonna be starting sometime in October,
In October, yeah.
but we're gonna get ready,
Oh yeah,
and we're gonna talk about what happened last season because we've
yeah,
not been on here for a minute,
yeah.
right? And DI Sports is just starting, so we've not been here at all. So we're getting started. So we're gonna start first. We're gonna look at last season recap, which would be the 2002-2003 season that ended up with the Denver Nuggets as the NBA champions. Let me get your take. What do you think about the playoffs last year?
It was interesting.
I said last year, but last season.
Yeah, last season. Yeah, no, it was definitely interesting. Nuggets definitely deserved it. Like in my opinion, I feel like they were the better team, like all around. Having like Jokic as arguably the best player in the league right now, and having like his running mates and Jamal Murray, and having Michael Porter Jr.
He stepped
Back.
up.
Yeah, exactly. Back from injuries
I
and
know,
all that,
yeah.
and they had KCP that had already won the championship. So it's always good to have like that championship experience in your team, and Jeff Green, all those guys. So definitely they deserved it. They were the better team, like coming out of the West, and I thought they were the better team of both that played in the finals as well against Miami. So yeah.
Yeah, I was really happy that they won it.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I based on how I thought the season was gonna play out, the moment the Milwaukee Bucks went out, they were my peak. So I was like,
I think it's safe to say that Milwaukee was most people's picks, like coming out of
they were
the
my
East at
pick
least,
coming out of
and
the
winning
East.
everything actually, like winning it all. So it was a bit of it was a bit weird that they got bounced in the first round. So.
But to justify and kind of make that a whole pick make sense is that the team that beat them got all the way to the finals.
That's fair. Yeah,
they were a pretty good team.
We can say that's fair actually. Yeah, because yeah, the Heat, they were like the underdog story, of this postseason. So, you know, the ride got a bit bumpy, somewhere in the middle, but they still went all the way through to the finals. So give them credit, compared to how they played in the regular season and how they played. It was like watching two different teams play.
It was crazy because
Yeah,
they played in the playing tournament.
yeah,
They were not
exactly.
that good.
They so so they were like what, like
Either the
what seed? Yeah, the eighth
or
seed.
so,
Yeah,
because they played
seven
in
to
the
eight
first
seed. Yeah, so they were like
playing
the
tournament.
seven to eight seed. So
Yeah,
like their record was probably like around
they were
500.
not
Like
that
so,
good.
yeah. So like to get all the way to the NBA finals. Yeah,
It's playoff Jimmy, guys.
oh yeah, man. Oh yeah.
Playoff Jimmy. That's what
And the
happened.
Heat culture too. There's
Pat
something to be
Riley.
said about the Heat culture, right? Just having all those guys, like undrafted guys, like stepping in, stepping up in big moments, and yeah, like there's something about that culture, and their coach too. He's a championship coach. Won 2 rings already, and yeah, so with all that experience, having the right players around, and yeah, they're able to make that push.
Yeah, I thought it was a very interesting playoffs. There was always a little bit of not sure of who was gonna win. That kept a little bit of
Oh yeah,
competition.
it
There
kept
was
it
so much
interesting. Yeah, especially like in the
interest.
second round when they played against like the Knicks.
Yeah,
I thought the Knicks had like enough in them to actually like beat them, but like after the first 2 games, we were starting to see like how the momentum was shifting, and yeah, everybody at that point kind of like knew it was going to be like Miami, to be honest. Because like
watching the regular season, I didn't know. I just knew Jimmy was good,
oh
so it
yeah,
was
for me it's
interesting.
mostly, yeah, I'm talking mostly playoffs now.
Playoffs,
Like
yeah,
regular season was a whole
different.
thing of its own, yeah.
But
Yeah.
that also kind of makes it interesting. The whole idea of the playing tournament, has it worked? Has it made it more interesting? Has it
Oh
given
yeah,
people life?
for sure, for sure. Like, just knowing that if you're like the 10th seed, you still have an outside shot of making it. Because like we'll still say like seventh and eighth seed are like, most favorable to like make it into the playoffs. But just having that outside shot of being able to fight, even if it's just one game, you have a shot, right? So yeah, I feel like the playing has definitely been good so far. I
So
know there was
far,
like a little bit of like, um, I guess resistance to it, like when it started. I know
yeah.
even LeBron was like, whoever brought this up should be fired or
I
something like
think he
that.
was
So
scared he was gonna play in the play.
yeah, 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 exactly. But yeah, so if you don't want to play in there, just make sure you're the top 6 seeds, and
That
you'll be
makes
good.
sense. So now
Yeah,
just look at it like if you want to go straight into the playoffs, you gotta be a top 16.
yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So
and that way
other than that, you gotta
you know who you're playing right away, right? Because you'll be playing like the third seed, so it makes
exactly.
it
So
makes it
that
easier.
makes it easier.
Yeah.
Going into last season recap, I'm just gonna break it down a little bit and we're just gonna talk about it here a little bit about last season since we're just getting started with this sports section of this podcast. We're gonna look at last season with a few interesting things that happened last season. So first I'm gonna go into when we look at I'm gonna focus on what matters, the big boys, the people that came to play.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
That's the playoff teams. When you look at the playoff teams, the teams that got into the that separated themselves from the other teams
Yeah.
in the NBA, what would you say is your most impressive player and your most impressive team during the playoffs? And it could be more than one.
Yeah, no, I just try to narrow it down, make it easy. For me, I think it's an obvious choice for like the most impressive player, and for me that was Nikola Jokic.
Ooh,
So he was,
MVP.
yeah, yeah, like he wasn't this like last season's MVP, but he was like previous 2 years MVP, right? So there's a little bit of that pressure, that was coming on him. You're back to back MVP. Are you going to win a ring? You kind of like,
Didn't that happen to Giannis?
yeah, it was kind of like the same thing with
Yeah.
Giannis too until he won in like 2021.
Where he was not the MVP
Yeah,
and Jokic
yeah,
was the MVP.
exactly. That was it. So you kind of like won back-to-back MVPs, and then like now you got to show, you got to, you know, make it more than and just the regular season, right? Can you like carry that into the postseason? So for me, it was Jokic for me. The way he played in the postseason, especially like in the regular season, he was good. But I feel like towards the end of the regular season, he kind of like took a step back a bit, I guess, just to kind of like reserve a bit of that energy
Get
going
ready.
into the postseason. You know what I mean? So that kind of like took him back in the MVP voting. That's why Joel won it, in my opinion. So
Isn't that a really good strategy though?
it
Because
is
there
because
is
like
a
there's
pressure keeping up with the
the
MVP.
ultimate goal for him now is winning the
He
championship.
has two
Joel
already.
hasn't won an MVP, so I guess it's fair that he can give it all in the post, like in the regular season, see how much you have left in the in the postseason. But for Jokic, like he's been there, he's done that twice already. So it's like why go for a third when you can like reserve some energy, go into the postseason fresher and all that. So that's just my opinion. That's what I think he did, and for me, he's my most impressive player. Like looking at these numbers, in the playoffs, he in 20 games he averaged 30 points, 13.5 rebounds, 9.5 assists for a center. 9.5
9.5
assists
assists.
is damn impressive. Like that's almost a triple double we're talking about here, right? So like, and then like in the finals, in 5 games he averaged 30.2 points, 14 rebounds, 7.2 assists. So the assists went down a notch, and then he still had like 1.4 steals a game.
Oh,
So still had active hands on defense, and yeah, and he was the finals MVP too. So I feel like that for me, he was my most impressive player, like in this postseason.
yeah, and he was the finals MVP too. He deserves all the accolades that
Oh
come
yeah,
to him. The interesting thing in the playoffs, I remember an interview he did, and they were telling him he was the top one of four players to average about I think 22,
yeah.
10, and 12. It was
His numbers were
he
ridiculous,
was
man. Like
really
I
shocked. He
couldn't.
was like, no, I don't, more than four people haven't done that. Like
Yeah,
he just wakes up
exactly.
and he
Yeah,
drops a near triple double and he thinks it happens easily. But I think that was a funny interview. Young man works hard, deserves all he gets, enjoys going back to his horses in Serbia.
in
Good away.
Serbia. Yeah, yeah,
So I was happy for him because I thought he was a little underrated because of athleticism a couple of times. And I was like, look at the numbers. If it was easy, you would do it. But
Oh yeah, the
he
numbers speak
actually
for
got it done.
themselves.
Um,
Yeah,
under the most impressive player one, before I get you to talk about the most impressive team, which kind of it depends. I would give a shout out player basically to Jimmy Butler, right?
yeah, yeah. Well
For the
deserved too.
fact that they were the eighth seed and he carried, let's be serious, guys, he carried a, a team that wasn't supposed to be in the finals based on talent, all right? You have him, you have Bam Adebayo, um, which are the two all stars on the team. But other than
Yeah,
that, the biggest contributors on the team were Max Struz, Gabe
Gabe
Vincent,
Vincent. Yep,
Caleb Martin,
and they were like all undrafted. Those
Duncan
two.
Robinson.
Yep, undrafted
Most
guys.
people don't know who these guys are, but
Yeah,
at the end of the day, I thought Jimmy kind of willed them. They all played Miami Heat basketball, so I'm either way, even though they were like an eighth seed and whatever, I think it was impressive getting to the finals. Everybody wants to win it, but I'll still look back at this finals and be like the Miami Heat had an impressive run, and I'll give credit to play of Jimmy. A guy that you want to go to war with. That's Jimmy Butler. So
all day.
yeah, next we're gonna go into your most impressive team
Yeah. So I went
in
with
the playoffs.
Jokic. I went with Jokic as my most impressive player, but for me, the most impressive team would be the Miami Heat, where Jimmy Butler plays for.
Okay,
Yeah, which is fair. So they were like the seventh or eighth
eighth
seed
seed,
in,
I
in the
think.
regular season, so they lost their first like playing game
Yep,
to the Hawks,
yep,
and then so they had to play a second one. They won, so
yep,
now they had to play. So now they were the eighth seed going into the playoffs, right?
yeah,
So now they had to play the number one seed, which was the Bucks,
yeah.
right? So I think for me that's where it all started, beating the Bucks. Nobody saw that coming,
No,
right?
even though Yanis was injured for a game, the
Yeah.
Bucks won a game without Yanis. I
Oh
don't
yeah.
think they were actually supposed to
So
be
that
still
ended
lose.
in five.
5 or 6.
Yeah.
So they still handled business
Oh yeah,
whether
they did
Yanis was there or
or
not.
not.
And in my opinion, a 1 and an 8 seed, even though Yanis missed a game, they should hold down the fort,
Yeah, exactly. At least
right?
until like make it like take it to like all the way to 7 games. Make it
At
more
least,
interesting. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. But the
Miami
way that
outplayed them. I don't really make much excuses
oh
for
yeah,
them.
and there was a play of Jimmy. Coming big. Making big shots. In back-to-back games, and yeah, they were able to get through that one. So for me, definitely the Heat. Coming through that round, going to the next round to play the Knicks. They beat the Knicks in 5 or 6
Yeah, I
as
think so.
well,
Yeah.
and then going into the Eastern Conference Finals against
Boston.
Boston. So now that
We're
was where
up three.
that was where it got interesting. They were up 3-0 on Boston, And then, Boston came back 3-3 and we thought they were going to make history, but then they didn't. So then the Heat were still able to, win that game and, go into the NBA finals. So, and actually, I would remember game 6 of that Eastern Conference Finals was like a lucky shot that changed the whole like series again. The series was done.
That.
Yeah. To me, it was done. Derek White in like 0 point something
2
seconds
seconds.
left.
And there was also a big shot from
A
Miami
putback.
before that.
Yeah, exactly. So that's what extended that series to 7. I thought it would have been done in 6, to be honest. So, but then in game 7, it wasn't even close because Tatum got injured and they couldn't keep up, and it was kind of like a blowout for a game 7, which was kind of weird. So, anyway, so yeah, the Heat for me definitely going into the finals. At that point, I feel like Jimmy was kind of hindered. I don't know if it was like an injury, but he wasn't moving the same. He wasn't being like aggressive enough.
It takes a lot for what he did to get there.
Yeah. So maybe, there was something a bit off about Jimmy there. So they were not like exactly the same team. So going into the finals, playing against Denver, I could see them being like outmatched, like, in terms of like size, physicality, and just, play as a team. I just feel like Denver were the better team. But for Miami to have come from the playing tournament all the way to the NBA finals, for me, that was the most impressive team.
I would totally agree with you about Miami being the most impressive team considering the circumstances. But I would also give a shout out to the NBA champions, which are the Denver Nuggets.
Yeah.
One thing I would say is they deserved it. I've seen this team go through the grind of building, suffering injuries.
Right from like the 2020 bubble, right? When they were in the Western Conference Finals against the Lakers, which they beat this year, by the way, to get to the finals. So, yeah.
Yeah, so I would give them all the credit. I also want to give a shout out to Jamal Murray. I think
comeback player of the year,
impressive.
The SPs, he got that.
It's really impressive because one thing we forget is when he's healthy, over the course of his not too long career, he has been a special playoff performer.
Too, right?
Yeah, he's been an all-star. Injuries did, and he came back and he was so good. Didn't need so much time to get in. Michael Porter Jr. was healthy. It's huge for the whole team. They were the number 1 seed, so they didn't just walk through the regular season.
Oh, no.
The team
they
was
put in
deep.
the work in the regular season.
The team was deep. Nobody talked about them. The media, you guys know who you are, kept talking about the Los Angeles Lakers and all the popular teams.
They use that as fuel.
And then the Mile High team out there in Colorado was getting the work done. It was getting the work done and being the number 1 seed. But everybody wanted to talk about how the Phoenix Suns were going to win. Of course they won't. The Golden State Warriors were going to win. No, they were horrible. And also, which other team were contenders in the West that before
that was
Denver?
Mostly, though. It was like
it was
Phoenix
mostly
for
people
sure.
and it was basically Phoenix, and some people were on the Lakers because of LeBron.
Yeah, Lakers, then,
insulting the number 1 seed.
Yeah.
Insulting the number 1 seed. And Jokic came and played like the MVP. Jamal Murray played like the all-star that he is.
Yeah.
Michael Porter knocked down the shots as he's supposed to do.
And Eric Gordon too.
Eric Gordon came in the trade, played awesome defense. And Bruce Brown,
KCP, Jeff Green.
I would say I was really impressed. Most importantly, I think it's underrated when you put in the work to be healthy. When everybody does what they need to do, the depth is good. The management does what they do to give good depth and rest, and everybody do what they have to do to stay healthy. So I was happy for them because of how unfortunate injuries affected them other seasons. I would also give a shout out to the Denver Nuggets for that. So we're going to go into the one nobody wants to talk about, but that's the one I would like to talk about the most. Yes, we'll go to the most disappointing teams in the playoffs, and we're still sticking with the big boys. So we'll talk about the most disappointing teams in the playoffs. And I'm going to start this one off. And I'm going to start with the Milwaukee Bucks.
That's fair.
I have to start there because I was disappointed. Giannis, I know you're good. I know you're one of the best players in the league, but you can't be going out to a number 8 seed in the first round. And your players and your teammates and stuff can't be letting you down, or you let them down, whatever the situation is, to a number 8 seed that had just played a play-in, and you guys were fresher, you were the better team. So I think I was really disappointed. A lot of people will give them a pass because they are the defending champions, but no, you can't be losing to the number 8 seed. You played so well in the regular season, dominated.
I
So
think they had like the best regular season record in the whole league too.
yeah,
So yeah,
so I would say that was really disappointing leaving so early.
the
And
first
being
round,
beaten
yeah.
properly, like not just leaving early. The Miami Heat
We
gave
didn't. I didn't see that. I
the
don't think
Miami Heat
anybody saw
gave
that.
the Milwaukee Bucks the business.
Oh yeah.
They made sure that the Milwaukee Bucks got all of it. So I would say they were my most disappointing team, and that comes from the amount of respect I have for Giannis. I'm sure if you listen to the press conference, he tried to explain what failure means.
I thought that was
I, w-
funny. It
I
was
wouldn't
like a pep
consider
talk.
the season a failure, as he
It
would
was like a
say,
pep talk. Yeah.
but yes, we understand why we're explaining a lot. The reason we explain a lot is because you shouldn't be leaving in the first round. But yeah, interestingly enough, I think Miami Heat were disappointing for all their players. Brook Lopez, Drew Holiday, Middleton. Middleton was healthy. Who knows? He might not be fully healthy, but still, I
Yeah,
think they
but they
were
had
good
Drew
enough.
Holiday. They had Brook Lopez. So they still had
Yeah, so
a
they still
pretty
had a
solid
good
team.
team. So
Yeah.
on the playoffs, I thought they left early, and I think they
And
should
they
get
got
the
the
most.
coach fired too
And they
in the
got their coach
process.
fired in their process. Everybody
Yeah.
takes responsibility for that because he was a good coach.
Oh yeah.
But when you lose to a number 8 seed, that kind of thing happens.
Yeah. Heads
So,
have to roll.
what about you? Who do you think?
Oh yeah,
Other than the
for
Milwaukee
me,
Bucks?
it was definitely the Boston Celtics, man. Like I also like watching Celtics play has to be the most frustrating thing in the playoffs because you know how good they are. Like you know their players. Like they have Jason Tatum, they have Jalen Brown, Marcus Smart, and like they have such, and they were just in the finals the previous year. So I was thinking this year, you know, having lost in the finals, you're coming back with a little edge, with a little bit of chip on your shoulder, to be able to just make you know just right your wrongs. But they didn't do that. So starting, I started seeing like the cracks in the Boston Celtics when in the first round when they played the Hawks. I thought that was going to be like a sweep. Ended up ending in six.
Yeah,
So it
the
should
Hawks were
have
not that good.
exactly. It should have been like 5 games, but then they lost like one game, like game five at home, which I thought was weird. And then it ended in six. They had to go back to like Atlanta to win like game six. So that's where for me it started. I'm like, you don't let like this is like the seventh seed. You don't let them, come into the game. You know what I mean? Like try to get like two wins from me. I thought that was necessary. You could have saved your energy there. So that's where it started for them. And then next round they played the 76ers and that went all the way to 7 games, and they found themselves down like 3-2.
Yeah, I think
Yeah,
3-2
yeah,
to
to
the
the Sixers as
76ers.
well,
And
and
then
then they had to win like game 6 and 7. So 6 on the road, 7 at home. So I thought again that was a bit shaky. You didn't have to like find yourself in a 3-2 hole, and then lost in 7 to the Heat. Started awfully. Um, yeah, like going down 3-0, like they were all healthy. Like we didn't really understand what was going on. You lost your first 2 games at home, and then you go on the road and then lose, the first road game again. So that was like it made you be down 3-0 for no reason. There was yeah, I just couldn't understand it. So they were such an up and down team. After that, they won like 3 games straight, tied it up, and then I was like, okay, maybe they'll do it. So this is a high again, and then they come crashing down in game 7 when Jason Tatum picked up that early injury, and then it was like game over when they played Miami. So yeah, for like a team that made it to the finals the previous year, I just thought that they'll be better this year, keeping basically their core team, like what they had, from last year, and yeah, they just didn't. They
they do
just
good.
couldn't. I don't
Yeah,
know if it has to do with coaching or like
that's
I know they had like a rookie coach and all that, but
yeah.
at some point, like your best players have to like step up and kind of like just close the deal, like take it to the
Take it
promised
to the
land.
promise.
Yeah,
Yeah, Boston were
they're
disappointing
such an up and down team, man.
after the
Like
Bucks. After the Bucks left, I just thought that was handed to them to at least go compete
at
against the
least go
Denver
go to the
Nuggets,
finals,
right?
right? That made sense, but yeah, it didn't quite
Yeah.
happen that way.
So we're gonna do the most disappointing players um for the playoffs.
Yeah.
Do you want to start that off? Who
Oh
do you
yeah,
think
yeah,
was
yeah. For me, I
disappointing?
definitely have someone in mind.
Yeah.
Like it wasn't obvious picking him, but when I thought of it, I had to pick him. So I went with Clay Thompson. Um, I said he was my most disappointing because the previous year they had won, Golden State had won the championship, and I thought he was part of the reason why they won because he was
Yeah,
injured like the previous like two
couple
seasons.
years.
Yeah, he was like he tore his Achilles, tore his ACL. He came back, and I thought like this is what they needed. So they had Andrew Wiggins, Draymond Green, Steph, and him. So it's a pretty good team, and they won last year, which I guess I was like it makes sense. You were injured before you were not here. You guys didn't even make the playoffs or something like that, right? So I thought, he had a big impact on them. And then coming into like this last postseason, he just wasn't the same player. Like his numbers were not bad when you look at them. He averaged like 18.5 points, 4.2 rebounds, 2.2 assists in like 13 playoff games. And you think, okay, that's not bad, right?
But let's
But
go
he
deeper.
shot, but he shot 38.8% from the field in the whole playoffs.
That means he was taking a lot of shots too.
Yeah, he was. He was taking a lot of shots, and you know, he shot like 36.8% from three this postseason, and his career average from three is like 41.6%. So that's for me, that's a big drop off.
Yeah.
Like when you're like a 40% like 3-point shooter. You come into the postseason and like you're below that, that's not good enough. You don't help your team, right? Because I
No,
remember
no.
when they played the Lakers, it was like double Steph, anybody else can kill us,
Yeah.
and Clay didn't step up to me. Like so that's why for me I feel like it was the most disappointing. And then in game six against the Lakers in the second round, we know his reputation. He's called game six Clay for a reason.
Yeah.
And what does game six Clay do? He gave us 8 points. He gave us 8 points on 3 for 9 shooting.
Hmm.
That's
He did
15.8%.
okay.
And then 2 for 12 from three. And that is
Did you
16.7%.
say 3 for 19?
Three for 19, yeah, field goal shooting. Yeah. So that was it. So
Are you
for
sure
me,
they wouldn't allow me to?
yeah, for me, I had the numbers, and when it wasn't adding up. And funny enough, last season he had a similar like postseason average. I think he averaged like 17 points
Yeah.
per game, but I guess he was more effective. But this year in that game six, where we thought that he would step up and do his thing, I guess they were all spent because I know they played like 7 games in their first round. So for me, definitely Clay Thompson was my most disappointing because I gave him a lot of credit when they won like the previous year.
And he has to get a lot of when you don't step up to you get the criticism.
Oh yeah,
If
oh
we're gonna lift you up in the parade, we're gonna actually ask you what happened when it all went down. So I actually think we're going to talk more about the Golden State Warriors. But yes, one thing I just wanted to ask before we step out from that, because one thing I've always looked at Clay as an excellent defender.
yeah.
Do you still think he's an excellent defender anymore after his
Unfortunately,
injury?
unfortunately, I'll say no because I feel like having those injuries back to back like that, it takes something away from you, right? Clay was such a good, on-ball defender, right? When you have this kind of injuries, it's hard for you to move laterally like the same, the way you used to move.
Yeah, I
And
don't
I
think he
and I
moves
feel
the
like
same
he doesn't
anymore.
move the same anymore. Like he's still like an
Good
okay
and good.
defender, yeah,
Yeah.
but he's not like sit in the chair kind of defender that he was before. Cause like he's like what 6'5", and
Yeah.
like he could like guard like point guards, like two guards. He could even guard like a small forward, like like before he got those injuries. So I think that has also like affected his game a little bit. So
Oh yeah. I would agree with that assessment. Basically, for me, just to wrap up the most disappointing player side, I will just quickly. I don't need to say too much about this, right? I'll just say Joel Embiid.
Joel, mm,
I'll say
yeah,
Joel
fish
Embiid.
out, fish out.
I would say Joel Embiid. For me, it's a matter of you're the MVP of the league. You were up 3-2, and in Game 7, when you needed to play well, you just sucked. It was like someone took the life out of you in a Game 7 when you're the MVP. So you might as well.
And his
Uh,
post game conference didn't help too. So there's that. Because
they
I know
were
when he came out after the game, they asked him, if could he has done more, and he was like, "Yeah, I could have done more." He tried to take the responsibility, but then he was like, "Oh, but then me and James Harden can do everything." I'm like, "Bro, like, which side
well,
are you like?"
you got the MVP playing with those guys.
Exactly. So like when it's time to step up, you have to take all the blame, right?
Yeah.
So That's how it is for the superstars
You
in this
just
league.
because the truth is, when you win, you're expecting to win the finals MVP and all that stuff. So when you lose, don't say you
The
can't do it
guys
all.
didn't step up, right?
So the next time you get like an MVP or a finals MVP, you better also stand in front of them and be like, they should just cut off the trophy and give each person individually a part of it.
Exactly.
So, but I would say Joel Embiid. I just think he obviously has an opportunity to still be better and win championships.
Yeah.
But had a great opportunity. You were up 3-2 against the Boston Celtics. Probably would have gone on to go play the Miami Heat and give yourself a good chance to be in the finals
yeah.
against the Denver
And
Nuggets.
that's always
And that
been
would have
that's always been the kryptonite to the second round. They've never gotten out
That's-
of the second round, which is
yeah.
weird. Yeah.
this was a great opportunity, especially considering that you were up 3-2.
Yeah.
And that would have been a very interesting final. Now it would have been you, Mano a Mano,
Versus Joel
versus
versus Jokic.
versus Jokic.
Yeah.
So now that would have given you the chance to, show what how good you are, or the MVP and the respect you expect in the NBA. But I would say Joel Embiid would be the player I would be calling out specifically for the most disappointing player during the playoffs. The Stars gotta get the blame.
Oh yeah.
If we're gonna give you the credit as well. The other thing, we're gonna go into a few top storylines from last season. We didn't get to do this over the course of the season, so we didn't get to talk about a lot of the interesting things that happened over the course of last season, which was the 2022-2023 NBA season. So I'm going to start with the first one. Yeah, you talked about the Boston Celtics. So I'm going to start with how the season started, which was the Ime Udoka saga in Boston, which in my opinion contributed to a lot of the things that happened. And when you don't start the season off great, it becomes starting to figure it out.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Now you had to get the assistant in, not very experienced. We want to keep the system together and all that, just because you had to get rid of your manager. But just wanted to start off with that whole saga and exactly how that all played out within the Boston Celtics organization, which I might add, Ime Udoka is now the head coach of the Houston Rockets.
Yes, let's watch out for that.
Was that a good decision by the Houston Rockets?
We will see.
We will see.
Yeah.
GM of Houston.
Let's start with that.
The top management of Houston. Are you guys sure? Are you guys sure that you want to bring him? Just going full circle to the whole saga with Ime Udoka. A lot of the reports that came in obviously kind of made it seem like getting rid of him was the only option for the organization because of what he did within that. And I guess Boston were willing to sacrifice the year and all that. He's an excellent coach, but with the accusations that came up and the reasons why he had to go, I guess some people were not comfortable. So we're not comfortable in the organization in Boston with how he moved.
If he was still there.
If he was still there. And we can do all we say about in sports and say and do all this. Management, the people at the top, the people you don't see on the floor, they still call the shots. And that was an example to let you know who actually decides what is acceptable and what's not acceptable. And at the end of the day, they own the team, they run the team. They want to keep some people away from their wives. And they made that decision.
Wives, the kids.
Houston. For people that don't know exactly the story, I'm just gonna recap it a little bit. Basically, the whole story was that he was having an affair with a top executive's wife. Ooh. And to protect who that individual is, they had to let him go and not reveal specifically who the lady was. And we would say at the end of the day, it reminded everybody who runs the show is not who you see on screen. And that's one of the things. So that was, I think that affected their season. They had built up a defensive structure under Ime Udoka, right?
Yeah.
Getting
the very good defensive identity.
Yeah.
That had there.
I think Joe Mazzulla was.
He was in for what he didn't expect.
He was not ready for.
No.
And it's not his fault. He didn't ask for. He was there as an assistant, growing and becoming better, and he was thrown into it, given a new contract and all that. So I guess they were thinking, let's keep it in house, let's keep the structure in. But sometimes, only one person can get the job done,
No,
can
that's
get through
fair.
to the players in a certain way, and that can affect the morale of the players too. So I think that had something to do with the late season decisions that I think Joe Mazzulla was not really great in the playoffs at making adjustments, going
Yeah,
down 3-0
yeah,
to a Miami Heat team. You don't, that was just poor coaching on every level, even
yeah.
going down 3-2, even though you won that
I guess
series.
the question will always be asked, like, if Ime was like the coach, like, say this saga doesn't happen and Ime was still the coach of the Celtics, would we be having a different
I
like
think
conversation
Celtics wins
here?
the whole championship if
Right?
Ime
Like, it's
Udoka.
possible.
For
It's
me,
possible.
the moment the Bucks was beat by the
It was
Miami
wide open
Heat,
for them. Yeah.
with Ime Udoka, some of those mistakes wouldn't have happened.
Wouldn't
This
have
would have been
happened.
like more
Yeah.
experience at the coaching level and
They,
whatever.
they turned the ball over like ridiculously.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. I don't know, but
I
it's
and I
crazy.
and I think the in-game adjustments were
A big factor
okay.
for sure.
Yeah, I think the in-game adjustments were a big factor as well. And now to another storyline that you want to take up. Let's talk about the Warriors.
Yeah. So this is, I guess, part of like the top storylines, right?
Cool.
So yeah, for me, I feel like, the Warriors, just having that Draymond Green and Jordan Poole altercation, at the like start of the season, like preseason, I'll put it that way, like, in the preseason where they kind of like got into it and
Got
Draymond,
into it, and
yeah.
someone got knocked.
Oh yeah, well, yeah. I guess, like, there was, I guess, some sort of like provocation involved in it, right? So Draymond, I think Jordan Poole like pushed Draymond, and then Draymond came in at him and like punched him, and yeah. So I feel like that is where it all started for the Warriors. Like, I just feel like they were never like the same team after that altercation, because there was something, just a little bit of trust that was lost, because Draymond is like the vocal leader of the team, right? Like, he's like, we all say he's the backbone of that team, right? So, after that happened, he might have lost a little bit of respect from, like, other teammates, and maybe the coaching staff, all that. So I feel like that definitely like seeped into the season, and what a beautiful coincidence that they went 11 and 30 on the road this season. Like that was a ridiculous record to have for defending champions, to go on the road and lose 30 times and winning just 11 games. I feel like there definitely has to be a correlation,
Can
right?
I give a little start
Oh
on that?
yeah.
One, the interesting the interesting thing about that start is the fact that they were the worst road team among playoff teams
Yeah.
and were the fourth worst road team in the whole league.
Oh, exactly. And then on like at home, they were pretty good. I think they were like top five
Yeah.
at home, like the whole season. So it makes sense, you have your fans, behind you. But on the road, because there's a thing about being on the road where like the leader of the team kind of has to like put everyone together, and you guys just kind of like stay. So I thought there was a bit of that divide when they were on the road. So like with like fatigue and everything else, it just wasn't right. And I think even Draymond touched up on it too, like in one of his podcasts where he talked about how him being the vocal leader, he kind of like let some things slide because of what had happened. So by the time he could gain the trust of the team again and kind of like, I guess, go back into being that leader that he was a little too late. So at that point, bad habits had already been formed, and it was hard to break from that point. So I think that definitely had something to do with Jordan Poole now getting traded
They
to to the Washington
guy
Wizards. So
guys, we gotta
because
learn.
both of them just couldn't exist anymore, and
But
it was obvious
but we gotta
at that
learn.
point.
We gotta learn something. Kevin Durant learned this, and Jordan Poole just learned this.
Yeah,
If you walk into their house and there is an altercation, they would send you out.
yeah,
You don't come
exactly.
in and actually come
That's
in
fair.
and
That's Draymond's house. That's Clay's house. That's Steph's house, right? Like those three, they're
it's
like the
crazy
core.
because people would make a big deal out of it, but they have proven that you all are mercenaries. KD, I'm talking to you. Like you all are just mercenaries for the Golden State Warriors.
Oh yeah,
So are you, Jordan Poole.
Oh yeah.
Just in case you didn't know.
He got paid though, so I guess it wasn't too much
Yeah,
of a
some other team would have
hard
still paid
feeling.
him.
But he got, yeah, I guess
So,
he could have, but
somebody would have paid
we
Jordan
all know the
Poole.
impact of playing with Steph, of how much that did for
Think
his career, right?
I
Because I
would.
feel like just him being by himself, like having that kind of pressure of like stepping up in big games and playing. I don't think he has that same impact if he doesn't play with Steph first, right? Because like you can easily like have Steph as your cover, like when you break out and you shine, which he did. He played very well in the like last season when they won the championship. I mean the season
Yeah,
before when they won the
similar to
championship.
KD.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Yeah,
Because
yeah.
why I say that he would have still gotten paid is Kyle Kuzma got paid.
But would he have gotten like
Kyle
as
Kuzma
much as he
played.
did though? That's the
Think
thing.
about it. Kyle Kuzma got paid because he had a good season on a bad Washington Wizards team. There
Yeah.
would have been a team looking for a scorer like Jordan Poole. I don't think what Kuzma gives a team is much more than what Jordan Poole would give a team in terms of scoring, the excitement.
Yeah, but I think he got paid before like the whole altercation, right? So
Yeah. No,
yeah.
no, no. I mean, in terms of if somebody would have paid him after the championship
Oh
victory,
yeah,
right?
oh yeah,
Somebody would
yeah,
have
yeah,
paid him
yeah, yeah.
for
But at that point, I don't think he was even thinking of leaving, right? He
he
was
wasn't
like
thinking
he
of
thought he
leaving.
found a home,
Oh,
right?
yeah, that's my
Yeah,
point.
exactly.
You came into someone's home and thought you found
He
a
thought
home.
he was like he had arrived.
The
He thought he
problem
was
is
part
that
of the
you,
big three now, kind of like kicking Draymond out of that big three, but it's not. It's not.
but
It
that's
wasn't
the
always
thing.
like that.
And for better or for worse, the Golden State has shown that they're going to stick with their guys.
Oh yeah,
Draymond just got a new
got a
contract.
good extension. Yeah,
Um, in my opinion, really, I would like to think about. I think it's a slippery slope for me because I don't think what Draymond did should have been tolerated by the Golden State Warriors.
I don't know how they handled that internally. I don't know
It,
how long he was suspended for, or if he
if
was
it was
fined
a
or anything like
game,
that.
it was a game.
Right?
He literally punched a grown ass man
Yeah.
in the face. Something
And
that
that's
and
unforgivable.
why I
It's
say
hard.
that is because we know that he was just punished by the team. But in my opinion, I could actually sue him for battery.
Yeah, but I guess
I
they
guess maybe
worked
it
all
was a
that
fight
internally.
internally and
Yeah,
all that, and well, he got paid and now he's out.
yeah.
I think a lot of these guys are nice. You punch me in the face, I'm demanding a trade right away.
Oh yeah, like that's
Um,
not happening with me.
but
I don't know how I can go back to. I think
and
the
that's what
trade.
destroyed their season in my
Yeah,
opinion.
and
There's no way you're
I
on the
think it works out well for everybody now. He gets to go. Pool gets to play, for a different team now. Kind of like be the the main man, and
Mhm.
yeah, Draymond still
Oh
gets to
yeah,
get paid and
but I
stay with the Warriors.
to me that was a core part of what destroyed their season.
Oh
How
yeah,
do you stay on the team planes and have a good
yeah,
relationship
exactly. It's just weird.
when
There's always going to be that divide,
yeah,
right?
there will be
Yeah,
that. I think the other top story from last season. I'll just talk about that quickly. Basically, the MVP race, which was between Joel Embiid of the 76ers, Nikola Jokic, and Giannis
yeah,
and Tato Kumpo. I think it was a very interesting race. In my opinion, when you look at the numbers and the team records, Yanis had the best record in the league.
yeah,
Nikola
yeah,
Jokic had the best in the West.
yeah.
Joel Embiid had some staggering numbers and probably one of the better players defensively among all three last season. So it was an interesting race, and
And was he
considering
the scoring champ as well, Joel?
I think yeah, Joel was a
Yeah,
scoring champ, so that gave him a little. But the other two players had better records
yeah,
in the league.
yeah.
I think there was a Jokic fatigue to give it to him three times in a row. That's a thing. Yanis
Yeah,
has won.
exactly. There's always that bias where you don't want to give a
Yeah,
player
and
like three
Yanis has
times in a
won
row.
twice too
Yeah,
before. There was a little bit of fatigue.
yeah,
In my opinion, any three could have been the player, but I think people just settled for the guy that could get his first MVP. That was an interesting race all through the season. I think Jokic came out on top, winning the championship. I think that was his priority, and he got it.
yeah.
Embiid won the MVP. It's nice to have your first one as an MVP, but that was also an interesting headline last season. I'm gonna get you to talk about your people, the people you love so much in all the saga, and where they all ended up, which was basically the Brooklyn
You
Nets.
mean the Brooklyn Nets? Yeah. So that was the interesting one, right? So 2021 was it? So
Yeah,
2020, Kyrie had signed for Brooklyn, right? The idea was that him and KD were both going to go to Brooklyn.
yep.
So I think they both signed in 2020. for Brooklyn.
Was it the idea that two of them were going to go to Brooklyn, or Kyrie decided I was going to go to Brooklyn, and KD, can you want to tag along?
Well, that's KD, right? KD has always been a follower, so he thought it would be right to follow Kyrie to Brooklyn. So they did that, but KD was injured that year,
Yeah.
right? So he was still rehabbing his Achilles, so he didn't get to play the whole 2020 season. Come 2021, they had gotten James Harden, right?
To add
To it. So like, you're seeing that team and you're like, this is the new big three,
Yeah.
they're going to win the championship, with they had Steve Nash as their coach as well. So
that was a mistake.
Everything was looking good, I guess, until
I think it first time was injuries.
so the first go round, like in the playoffs,
Yeah.
they were injured when they played in the second round against the Bucks.
And it was only KD that was healthy.
Yeah.
And he had the big shoe.
Yep, in that game 6 where they could have actually won, and
his big
gone to
shoes.
Yep, so
Big shoes did not allow them to win.
Yeah, we know that story, how that went. So then the next year, James Harden, demanded a trade.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that was season before last. So he demanded a trade, got out, and then they got Ben Simmons in return. So Ben Simmons, so James Harden went
to fire.
Went to 76ers, and Ben Simmons came to Brooklyn, and so that was the idea. So last season, basically, it was supposed to be Kyrie, KD, and Ben Simmons, right? And then come to February, when there was like the trade deadline, Kyrie wanted to get paid. He wanted like a contract extension, but the team just didn't trust him enough to give him that, because he's always had like those, off the court issues.
He might just decide that a kid in Somalia is not being.
Kyrie is special. He's special that way.
I must say I like the guy. Just for business terms, it's kind of rough.
Yeah, so he asked for a contract. I guess I don't know how much he wanted, but I don't think the Brooklyn Nets were going to give him any. So then he demanded a trade. So then, luckily for them, they were the Dallas Mavericks. They were looking for someone like a superstar, someone to play alongside.
Basically desperate.
Yeah, exactly. So then, he got out. He got his wish. He went to Dallas, and then there was left Kevin Durant. So KD looks at himself and is like, what am I doing here now at this point? I came here to play with Kyrie and James Harden, and now I have Ben Simmons. So you see, like so KD, he puts in for a trade request, which wasn't the first time he did it. In the postseason, he actually asked for a trade as well, right? He asked to be traded.
And he talked with the owner.
Yeah, they talked with the owners. The market wasn't right. They couldn't get enough compensation back for him, so he decided to stay. So then he asked for a trade again this time, and I guess this time they had to give it to him because Kyrie wasn't there. He wasn't winning the championship with Ben Simmons. So then he found himself in no other place than the Phoenix Suns, which I thought was very, very interesting and a beautiful coincidence, of course, because the Phoenix Suns had the best record in the league, like 2 years in a row. They had Devin Booker, Chris Paul, DeAndre Ayton, so that's a pretty good team, right? So, he thought, I guess, going there, they'll be kind of like a championship contender right away. So that is how that all went, which is funny how they went from 3 superstars to 0 basically. They got a lot of assets though, but
good assets. Cam Johnston, Michael Bridges, but
it's for me, it's just crazy how like the turnaround time from like 2020 until 2023, like you had like a championship contending team and like it went to 0. For me, I thought that was pretty wild.
Yeah, I when I think of the Brooklyn Nets, the problem is even how it all got together. The fact that they hired Nash.
And then Kyrie said they don't need a coach. That's where it got interesting. Yeah,
it was a whole mess right from the beginning. There was nothing I actually thought about being serious. Getting a first year coach that's all about offense, that really doesn't know much about defense, doesn't know how to handle superstars. Yeah. Your own stars don't even think you're a coach. They just want you there so that they can coach the team. So that was something. Yeah. The other storyline, I don't know if you want to take this, was Ja Morant last season at the
Yeah.
Memphis Grizzlies. A good promising team. But you had the whole Ja Morant and
Yeah,
I would say maybe
yeah.
Dylan Brooks saga over the whole course of the
But I
season.
feel like Ja was like the ripple effect, right? Like
Yeah.
Ja had more of, the impact on the team
Because of his
than
suspensions.
yeah, exactly. So, he's had this, off the court like, altercations, and then we started seeing like videos on the internet about him in like nightclubs with like,
Obsession
guns.
with guns.
Yeah, exactly, and all that. So that just really puts like, because let's face it, like the Memphis Grizzlies, they're a damn good like basketball team. Like
Even
the way they
without
play,
Ja
even
Morant,
without Ja,
you want to
exactly.
check
Like,
the record.
yeah, like without Ja, like they have
They're
like a
better
pretty
records.
good record, right? So just Ja being the leader of the team, I just feel like he could have carried himself like a lot better than he did, and that really just derailed like the team. So he so I, yeah, like even this off season, he's gotten into something now that going into next season he's going to miss like the first 25 games,
25
right?
games, yeah.
So like he did something, he apologized for it. He went to talk to the commissioner, basically stood in his office, promised him that he would change his ways, right? With the whole gun, carrying the gun thing. And I know it's America. Everyone like carries a gun. You have like you have the right to do it, but like when you work for like the NBA, it's a private entity,
You can
right?
hire a security guy.
Yeah, exactly. You don't
It's
have to
the
do all that, and that just derails your team, right? It takes your team a step back, and
it,
like,
it it's crazy because why I was laughing is I remember watching the interview with Jalen Rose.
yeah,
It's one of the most BS interviews I've seen in a while. It was just like
I thought it was remorseful though when I
you
saw
thought
that. I
so.
thought like I
It
thought, but for me, it's like that saying where it's like don't tell me, show me, right?
exactly
Yeah,
to
yeah.
me it was like, can we get this over with? What? Let me tell you guys all you want to hear. Oh, I've been going to rehab.
To
Rehab
rehab, and that
what?
rehab too was a bit
Uh,
shaky too. Like you went to what, two
I've been
days?
working on myself, sleeping at home. Maybe I've been all the buzzwords, all the
You
things
said all the
about.
right things.
Are they
Yeah.
right things or just what people want to hear? It's
Oh
like a
yeah, yeah, like
drafted
the right
statement,
things that
as
people
people
wanted to
said,
hear. Yeah,
as
he's like
Shannon
he's
Sharp
working on
said.
himself and he's doing all that.
AI generated apologies.
That's funny.
So I think it was one of the interesting stories. In my opinion, like with the whole Ja Morant saga, um, he was enabled by the Memphis Grizzlies. Now they are trying to make it look like they have enabled him for a long time to behave like that. They knew about the stories, the off-season stories before coming into the season. The
Yeah,
one with his mom at the shopping mall and stuff like that. The one, the security guard with the mom that he showed up,
yeah,
and other incidents with a guy in his backyard, like
yeah,
with a kid, threatening the kid, or whatever. They already knew that and they wanted to keep it secret and move on. They enabled the kid. He was the star. It's Memphis. They don't get a lot of stars. So that's what's gonna be. And I think it's not gonna be um a smooth sailing at any point soon. First he has to serve his 25 game suspensions.
yeah, and
So
that makes him ineligible for like awards, postseason awards,
exactly.
right? So he can be an MVP. He can be like whatever. So
In my opinion, the Memphis Grizzlies next season, you can write that off. They're just going to
yeah,
compete and be what they are. So after that, where do they go from there? Now there's no longer any Dylan Brooks, so they're going to have to build with Bain, him, and Jaren Jackson.
yeah, yeah.
Think
So
about the other big cores in the NBA. Are they going to get a championship with that? We're going to wait and see
yeah, exactly.
for the Ja Moran situation. But so I would say those were the top storylines over the course of the whole season, last NBA season. So that was a good season as well. Um, that was a good season in general. Okay, so we're just gonna get into one more breaking news that came on this off season,
Yeah,
and it's the new NBA in season tournament. It's gonna be called the NBA Cup.
yeah,
The NBA is copying the real football. You know what I mean? They are like in Europe, it's normal. We have cups and all that kind of stuff, and so it's gonna be interesting for me. It's interesting, but before I let you give your take on the NBA Cup, um, that the NBA announced recently, I'm just gonna explain what that is, and then we're gonna break it down. Basically, it's gonna be played by all 30 teams in the league. Um, and there are going to be 6 groups of 5 teams. So there are 30 teams in the NBA. So there are going to be 6 groups of 5 teams. There are going to be 3 teams in the West and 3 teams in the East. And all group teams play head-to-head games against each other, which means there are going to be 4 such games in November. And it's going to be usually be played on the Fridays and Tuesdays in November. The 6 group winners, so from the 3 teams in the West and the 3 teams in the East, there are going to be 6 group winners who automatically advance to the cup. And then there are going to be 2 wild cards, which are basically going to be the 2 teams that has the next best records in group play would also advance to a quarterfinals as well. So European soccer style, quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. Mainly the finals and the semifinals is going to be played in December in Las Vegas. So it's going to be a cup style feel in December. And the way it is being set up is that players on the winning team get $500,000 each, and players on the losing team on the finals get $200,000 each. And there's been a lot of reactions. And if you think about the money, $500,000 and $200,000 might not be a lot of money for the star players in the NBA, but from the 5th guy down to the 15th guy, they could use a little bit of that. So I think there's going to be some interesting competition going on with that. So so that's how that's going to break down for now. We're going to have to wait and see, but I'm going to get a reaction to the NBA Cup announcement by the NBA.
I loved it. When I heard of it, I was a bit skeptical. I was like, what is this? What does it entail? But when I saw like everything, how it breaks down, each team still gets to play their 82 regular season games. So it's not like they're making them do more. So like those games kind of like the tournament games are kind of like incorporated into their schedules. So it's not like really, breaking anything. So I think every game counts except for the final, like the very last game.
I think every game will count except for probably maybe the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals. Now I would need to check that out, because the interesting thing with that is if those teams still have to play themselves later in the season, it could still count. Because for now, they can't make that schedule because you don't know who the 8 teams are that will progress to the quarterfinals, semifinals, and finals.
The scheduling definitely
there will be some adjustments done there.
Yeah, but I think another thing I like about it is the fact, like the one and done game. Where you don't have to like play like a whole series of like the best of 7.
Actually,
I really like that. It makes it more intense.
I think every game will count. So if you play a team in the finals, they can just count it as one of your regular season game, because every NBA team plays every other NBA team.
Oh yeah, at least once
over the course of the season.
Yeah. But no, I definitely like the idea, and I think one thing that is going to like resolve will be like that issue of like sitting out games due to like I don't know, load management, right?
Yeah.
So I feel like it definitely like helps that part of the game where now there's kind of like something to play for. And then there'll be fans, even as the players too, you kind of get excited, you want to go to Vegas, right? To play in those games. So definitely, like, I like the idea. It doesn't take too much out of the players, I don't think. It's kind of like one and done, right? If the group stage games, you play 2 at home, 2 on the road. If you advance, you get to play one and done. So it's not
regular games.
Yeah, and it's not taking too much of like your energy or your time. So that's why I really like it. I'm looking forward to seeing like the inaugural winners of this competition, and just how the players react to it, like how seriously they take it too. But my initial reaction, I was skeptical, but then when I saw everything, I actually liked it. I thought it makes all the sense in the world.
Me too. I kind of thought about it, and I think the NBA are genius for what they're doing.
Oh yeah.
I think the NBA found a way to create excitement.
2 birds with one
because
stone,
the
basically.
thing is in November and December, before the Christmas games, the NBA is pretty boring.
Yeah.
Because what happens is American football is still the number 1 sport in America, and it's at its full like pace.
That's when playoff starts, right? For NFL. Like
it's around December.
Like in December.
But around that period, it is very competitive going into Thanksgiving games, going into December games.
Christmas games.
Teams are positioning themselves for the playoffs, so usually at the end of December or early January.
Yeah.
So the NFL has a whole lot of monopoly on the markets, and people's attention.
Yeah.
But I
Like
think
the
the fact,
viewership, yeah.
the viewership too. But I think now with the cup, they are going to be getting some of that
A little bit of that
interest,
competition
a
there.
little bit
Yeah.
of competition for
Yeah.
that interest,
That
because
is
now,
genius. Yeah. If
yeah,
you
it's
think of it
genius.
that way.
They were not getting a lot of stuff going in November. A lot of people don't follow the NBA until the NFL is up, especially in the States.
To be honest, yeah.
Yeah, because
yeah.
the NFL is
Until like in February when like the Super Bowl is done and then like the All-Star break comes, and after that it's kind of like, trade deadline is done, and then like the real that that like quarter of the season left is when like NBA, like people start getting into it, to be honest. Yeah.
So I think it was really, really really genius of the NBA to actually do that, because that allows them to get some market share for November going into December. And I was looking at the schedule too. When I actually took a look at it, it was also interesting that they put the games on Tuesday and Fridays. So that wouldn't interfere with Thursday night
Monday night
football,
football, Thursday night football, and
or
Sunday night football. Yeah.
Exactly. So
Yeah.
they made sure that the games were put on days that they can actually take interest away from the NFL,
Yeah, that's
actually
facts.
and actually be the main sport at that period. So I think that was cool. Let's talk about the NBA free agency and NBA trades and contracts that came off this offseason. I'm gonna summarize the biggest ones here, and then we're gonna give our opinion on it. One of the trades that occurred is Utah traded for John Collins from the Atlanta Hawks. Also, Porzingis was traded from the Washington Wizards to the Celtics.
Yeah.
And recently, he was given a 2-year, $60 million contract extension.
Yeah.
So the Celtics want him there, right? Memphis also got Marcus Smart in the trade for Porzingis in the 3-team trade. Also, Bradley Beal, finally, as I said, it's been too long. Actually now is with the Suns in a trade. So now in Phoenix we have KD, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker.
Yeah.
Chris Paul was moved to Washington and now is with the Warriors.
Yeah.
Jordan Poole is now with Washington Wizards as part of the Chris Paul trade. Jeremy Grant was given a 5-year extension for $160 million. Congratulations, young man. With Portland Trailblazers. That was before he knew Lillard would be like, I'm out of here at some point.
He gets to be part of the rebuild.
Yes. Fred VanVleet hit it big, and I'm happy for him. This was an undrafted guy out of the University of Wichita, underrated, played super well in college. So I'm happy for him. NBA champion, and a 3-year, $130 million ching. Money.
That's good money. Yeah.
Coming for him. Also, Kyrie Irving got a 3-year extension for $120 million to stay with the Dallas Mavericks. I guess they had no choice. They've spent and invested.
But I like that one though with Dallas, because he was eligible for like ridiculous like $50 million a year.
It was a bargain.
Right? Yeah. So I like them, not giving him everything. So it was
managing the risk.
Oh yeah, exactly. Because they could meet somewhere in the middle where they're not giving him like 5 years or 4 years. I think you could only get like 4 or 5 years.
Or something like that, an extension.
Yeah, I think
that was met in the. I don't think it was a crazy deal, but he got paid.
That's fair. I think it was fair.
Yeah, and the team, decent risk. I wouldn't give him that. I think Kyrie Irving is ready to become a philanthropist. Draymond Green got a 4-year, $100 million contract. Congrats to him.
Still with the Warriors.
With the Warriors. They value him over there. He puts in the work. Cam Johnson for Brooklyn got 4 years, $95 million. Middleton resigned for Milwaukee at 3 years, $93 million. Kyle Kuzma cashed in. Been moving around, but he keeps sticking around. 4 years, $90 million.
Yeah.
Dillon Brooks, surprisingly to me, got 4 years, $80 million from the Houston Rockets. In my opinion, that might be an interesting signing, but somebody needs that kind of level of intensity, and Houston needs it.
Yeah, I feel like playing for like Ime Udoka, like with the Houston.
That might work.
I think that works.
Might work.
I think it works. Yeah.
Yeah. Also, Max Strus got 4 years, $63 million from Cleveland.
Yeah.
Austin Reeves got 4 years, $53 million from the Lakers. Yeah. And Westbrook resigned with the LA Clippers for 2 years, $7.8 million with a second year for a player option.
Yeah.
So looking at all those major moves, is anyone stand out to you? Anyone's you're looking at to be like this ones might be very impactful to how next season goes.
Yeah, for me, I just like the Bucks. I feel like,
Resigning Middleton?
yeah, I feel like just keeping the team, like resigning Lopez and like Middleton, right? For
Yes.
me, I think that there's something about running it back, right? Like you see the way the Boston Celtics have gone, where they've I feel like they've gotten rid of their core a little bit, where
Marcus Smart is
Marcus Smart
gone.
is gone, Grant Williams is gone,
Yeah.
right? And now bringing Porzingis, so I feel like you're losing a bit of your identity with that. With the Bucks, I really like them keeping like that
The
core.
core.
So having Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Giannis, and Brook Lopez, and that's how they won the championship,
That's a
right? For
strong
me, I think
team.
that is the best. Like, just run it back, keep the same core. Let's do it again. Now we have a new coach. You still have arguably the best player in the league in Giannis. Why not? So I feel like for me, I just like that continuity. Keeping the same guys and then running it back again.
Oh yeah, I would say that was interesting. The one that actually a few that stood out to me that I will be looking out for is the Bradley Beal to the Suns,
Oh yeah,
creating a
that's
big
it's
three
definitely
over there.
interesting. Yeah.
That would be interesting. Also, I'm looking at the Porzingis to Celtics. Does that improve their bigs play? Now they have Porzingis and Robert Williams.
Yeah, so that this
That's an
that's good.
interesting
That's good
big
rim
tandem.
protection. Oh
Yeah,
yeah.
rim
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
protection. One can stretch out the floor, doesn't really need to clog the paint.
Exactly.
I'm curious to see how that plays out. That might be a very smart move. We just haven't seen it play out at the
Well, let's
moment.
hope that he's not injured, right? Because he has like a bit of an injury history with him too. So
Yes, he
yeah,
has a bit of an injury, but last year he managed to stay very productive and healthy for the
but they
Washington.
didn't make it to the playoffs. So
Yeah,
that's when
not
it gets
playing a lot.
intense.
Yeah,
So yeah,
that would be interesting. I just think that big tandem would be, if they can stay healthy, that might be a troubling
another
big.
thing too with the Celtics is like is what's his face Brown. Is Brown going to get his max extension? Are they going to move him?
That
Like
would be interesting.
like I feel like there's a
Well,
bit of a
summer
story
is still
there
here,
as well.
so
Yeah.
yeah, that would be interesting. Also, Cleveland getting Max Strus, getting a shooter. They were really poor and bad shooting the ball
Oh
last year.
yeah.
Marcus Smart going to Memphis. Would that bring an adult in the room
Oh
in
yeah, I feel
in
so. Like
Memphis?
yeah, that's a good like presence to have in your locker room, right? Like somebody that I feel like can hold your best player that is
Accountable.
accountable to a
And he
certain
proves it.
extent.
He's a
Yeah,
former defensive player of the year, so
exactly.
he's not just coming to
And
talk.
they call them what, Grind City? Is that what they call them?
I
So
know.
yeah, like I feel like
We'll
that makes
see.
sense for them.
we'll,
Yeah.
we'll see. We'll see how that goes, and also the Chris Paul in Warriors, how that works. Would Chris Paul come off the bench?
Yeah, for me, I put that one as one of the worst moves, like getting Chris Paul, because like we all know, Chris Paul is older now. He has this injury history where, like in the postseason, he's almost always injured, right? So now we know that coming into the season, like I guess the idea for him is he plays with the second unit, cut
Yeah,
down on the turnovers. That makes sense. But like the offense, they run like the Warriors, they run like a quick transition offense.
yeah.
But so how does he play with Steph? If Steph is on the floor, like say in the fourth quarter to close the game out, are we having CP in the game? Are we having Steph?
That's
Like,
intriguing to me.
yeah. So
And
for
there's
me,
Wiggins still there,
exactly. So basketball wise, I feel like it was like I put it as the worst move that I saw.
so that
Like
would be
it
your
doesn't make
worst move.
sense. Yeah.
And what would be your best move of the offseason?
Yeah, for me, like I said, the Bucks, man, keeping their core team like
That would be your
easily.
best
Yeah,
move.
but another thing with the Warriors now is like it could be a genius move bringing in Chris Paul because that's an expiring contract, right?
Yeah,
So you bring him in, and then you know that
you get
even
cap
midway
space,
through, you can even like maybe just pay him off
cut
and
it
like
off.
yeah, exactly. So it could be good, like just getting rid of that Jordan Poole contract, right? Because now I know with with the new CBA that kicks in like this season, it makes it really hard for teams to get like the big three, like
Or
super.
four,
Yeah,
yeah.
because like the way they put it, like the luxury taxes you have to pay now will be ridiculous.
Especially when it's your second time, when it's a second kicker.
Exactly. So like teams are trying to like walk around that. So I think even the Warriors having to extend Draymond. I know like Clay Thompson is coming up to extend, so I feel like they like wiggle room to work with. So I think that's why they brought in Chris Paul just for that contract. Contractually, it makes sense. If you move him, like you have like room, like there's cap space right there. You can, make it work again. Get to keep Clay. So it is the best and worst move.
Move. And
Like basketball and like financial wise, like it's like opposite. Like yeah,
I'm just curious. I think that's, for me, I wouldn't say best or worst move. That's the most intriguing move, and how
yeah,
it plays out over the course of the season, and then we'll see how all of that goes.
yeah. But
Okay.
the CP playing with playing with Steph and Clay. It's I don't know. It will be very interesting to see how
I'm
they all play
curious, like,
together.
really,
Yeah,
that's, for me, I'm really intrigued with how that would go, right, in general.
yeah.
But that would be interesting to actually know what's going on. Anyway, thank you, um, Albert, for coming. We're gonna stop there for the NBA. We're gonna be talking more. We're gonna be talking more about the NBA going forward, right? But it's gonna be interesting. The season is upcoming. We're going to be discussing this more. We're going to be making our predictions. We're going to be analyzing how these teams fit together as they kind of fill out their teams and come
Yeah,
into
like
camp
how
and
the
all.
all other trades work, and
Exactly.
yeah.
But it's been an interesting off season to just see how teams are preparing for a new
Oh
year.
yeah.